couple of years ago, I did something, and I've only done this once in my entire life, but I did something that was a little bit out of the ordinary. I bought a lottery ticket. Now, I never play the lottery. I don't do this. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I was driving. I was living here at the time, and I was driving from Homa to here. And as I was driving, I was listening to the radio, and on the radio they said that the jackpot was $1.3 billion. And I just remember being like, you know what? If there's ever a time to do it, now's the time. Let's see what happens, right? So I'm driving. I saw a gas station, had the little thing in the window, or out in front. So pull over, go buy my ticket. I had no idea how to do this. Well, fine. I walk up to the thing. I'm just like, I want a lottery ticket. I know here the jackpot's really big. They're like, yeah. What numbers do you want? I'm like, I don't know. Just give me some random ones, right? Great. I get the random numbers, and I pulled up thinking, shot in the dark. Let's take a chance. Let's see what happens. I get back in my car. And by the time I got back in my car and started to pull out of the gas station, I looked in the rearview mirror and I thought, the next time I see that gas station, it's going to be on news because they just sold me the winning lottery ticket, right? I just made that place famous. So I'm like all excited. I'm like, watch this. This is going to be great. I was driving, legitimately, I drove 15 minutes. And by the time I got home, I had already budgeted out what I was going to do with my winnings, right? I had convinced myself. Me and the Lord, we were just having a good conversation. And we were just like, Lord, look, let's start off I'm going to be real humble. I'm going to keep 0.5%, right? I'm not going to do the math, but it's like $50 million is what I was saying. I'm going to be like really, really poor in this whole thing. I'm going to be like, cool, I'm going to just keep 0.5%. That's it, right? But everything else I'm going to give away. It's going to be great, right? You take the lump sum, you get rid of taxes, and then, okay, whatever. I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, what else could I do? Well, all the debt that of every family member, friend, whatever, that's gone, right? Diocese, if we're in debt, great. We're going to start an NIL deal for the Nichols football team. That's going to be great, right? Colonel Catholic NIL deals, right? Like all this stuff. Like I have all these plans. I have budgeted out down to the penny, everything that I could possibly think of, what I would give money to. And then I'm like, I still got leftover money. Like, okay, well, we're going to start building churches on the other side of the world. We're going to build some schools. We're going to do a well somewhere, because that's a thing, I guess. I don't know. I'm coming up with everything I could possibly think of what we're going to do with all this money. We're going to build a church at St. Thomas so we don't have to have the adult cry room off the side, right? It's great. All these kind of things, great. All the stuff, I had it all budgeted. I was ready to go, cool, get home. I go look, and I'm like, with my little ticket, I'm sitting there, and I'm watching the numbers come up, and I'm watching, 0 for 6. And I'm like, this is not good. I was like, Lord, there is something wrong here. I didn't get one number. At least throw me one that you were kind of listening about this. I got no numbers right. What the heck, right? I convinced myself I had won this thing and that we're all ready to spending. That's where we were. And I remember for a moment, I paused for a second. It was just clear as day. In one of the loudest moments of my life that I can remember the Lord speaking to me. It was just very, very loud in my heart, in the quiet of my heart. He just says, I like a poor church. And I was like, fine. And he's like, I don't need your money. It's interesting because Pope Francis had talked about this during his pontificate, where he was like, I love a poor, we want a poor church for the poor. And it's interesting because I think what the late Pope, I think in that moment of grace that I felt like God was speaking to me, I feel like in all of this, it's very similar to what Jesus is talking about in our gospel today, and what our second reading in particular, what St. Paul's talking about to the Colossians, right? Over and over and over again, we hear about don't just focus on the things of the world. Because the things of the world are fleeting. They don't fulfill. The things of the world are fleeting, they don't fulfill. It's interesting. Afterwards, this is a couple of years later, I remember seeing a stat. 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt. All the money in the world, right? Everything that you can possibly imagine. Bank account higher than you could ever imagine, right? Just swipe the card, it's fine, it's no big deal. But 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt. It shows that the balance is not the problem. That we can't fulfill the deeper desires, the deeper wants, the ache that we have with just a balance. It's interesting. We don't just do this with money, though. Right? Thomas Aquinas actually says that there are 4 spots that human beings, fallen human beings, we have a tendency to go to seek out happiness, to seek out fulfillment. One of them is money, is wealth. Another one is pleasure. That doesn't matter whether it be good food, good drink, good sex, whatever it is, right? Like these things cannot and will not fulfill. They do not, cannot, and will not fulfill the deepest desires of our heart. They will not truly make us happy. They're fleeting, momentary kind of things. They're goods, but they're goods that cannot give us the ultimate happiness that our heart desires. Another one that Aquinas says is power. Being the boss, right? Like striving, I want to be in charge. I want to be the CEO. I want to be in charge of my school. I want to be in charge of my sorority, my fraternity, my club, the band. I want to be up in the leadership role. Like I want to be the boss. I want to be in charge. Power, fleeting moment. It will not, cannot, does not fulfill the deepest desires of our heart, the fullest happiness that we seek. Can't do it. And the last one that Aquinas says is fame or status. It's a place that we seek, right? Like in our world today, we don't even have 5 minutes of fame anymore. Now it's 15 seconds of fame, right? But like every week, something else becomes the famous thing, right? We cannot be, just because we have a number of followers or a number of clicks or whatever else, right? Like it does not bring fulfillment and happiness to the level that our hearts desire, right? It will be fleeting. It will not be enough. It's a fool's errand. Does not, will not, and cannot fulfill us in the deepest parts of our heart. It's interesting. Jim Carrey, famous comedian, actor, Ace Ventura, right? Like the Jim Carrey played the Grinch, right? Great role. But like he at one point he was quoted saying, he said, "I hope everyone could get rich and famous and will have everything they ever dreamed of, so that they will know that it's not the answer." Some real wisdom from a funny man, right? It's interesting because today in our gospel, what Jesus is doing is, I think he's hitting on all of this with this parable. He hits on all of these kind of places because he's really trying to communicate, right, that the things of the world are fleeting. They're not going to be the ultimate fulfillment. Notice what happens is Jesus is standing there and he has somebody that comes up to him, and basically this guy that approaches him kind of drags him into some family drama. He says, "Look, tell my brother to share our inheritance." And Jesus is like, "I really don't need to be getting involved with your stuff. Who made me the arbitrator of this deal? Like, I don't want to be this." And they go back and forth, and Jesus gives a little teaching about greed, but then afterwards he looks at him and he uses a parable. And the parable that he uses in particular is very, very interesting. What he says is, there was a rich man, and this rich man had a very, very bountiful harvest, right? And he had a lot saved up of his crops and of his wheat and everything else, right? So he had a barn it sounds like he has a barn that is full of reserves, right? So he has everything that he needs, right? He has all the stuff that's taking care of him, all the stuff that's going to satiate him, all the stuff's going to feed him. Everything is saved. He's good, right? He's done everything within his power so that he is taken care of, right? And as he has this bountiful harvest, the way it looks is he says, I don't know what to do with it because I literally have no room left. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tear down these old barns, build bigger ones so that I can save even more, right? I'm going to have more security. I'm going to have more of my own. Like, I'm going to have more in my control that I'm going to be okay. And what does God say to him? "You fool, your life is called upon you now, and it's a waste." Don't think of things like Jesus says. Don't focus on the things of this world. Focus on the things of God. St. Paul says the same thing. Don't look at the things of this world. Focus on the things of God. There's a scene, and a really, really interesting and powerful scene in a movie called Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. It came out in like the late 2000s, like 2010, 2008, somewhere in there. And it's a sequel to Wall Street, the old Gordon Gekko movie from the 80s, if you know what I'm talking about. But in this movie, what happens is there's this young investment banker. He's trying to get in with this company, and there's the CEO, like the head guy of this investment firm, and he just gets hired. So they're talking back and forth, and the young guy asks the older guy. He looks at him and he says, "I have a question before I go. Like, what's your number?" And the other guy's like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" And he says, "Well, what's your number?" He said, like as a young guy, he says, I've come to the conclusion, I believe, that everybody has a number whenever they're working in this field, right? They're stockbrokers. And he says, I believe that everybody has a number that you can just be like, once you hit it, I wash my hands and I can walk away, right? Like, so what's your number? What number do you have to accumulate so that you feel confident that you could walk away from the life that you have built, right? That's kind of like the subtext. That's what he's saying. He says, so what is your number? And this boss, the head guy, he starts to kind of walk away, and he turns back and he just kind of gives this like really, really creepy smile. And he looks at him and he just says, "More." And then he leaves. I find so often those four spaces, whether it be wealth, pleasure, power, status, so often our attitude, when we find ourselves not fulfilled, not happy, is more. Just give me more, and maybe it'll work. Just give me more, and then maybe I'll be fulfilled. A little bit more wealth. If I just made more money, then everything would be okay, right? Just a little bit more pleasure. If I just had a little bit more pleasure, right? If I just had a little bit more like entertainment, then it would be okay. If I just had a little bit more power, like if I just could strive for a little bit more power, more influence with my boss or with my leader or whoever it is, right? If I could just get a little bit more, if I could just have a little bit more fame, if just a few more people cared, if a few more people followed, or a few more people saw, then I'd be okay. It's a fool's errand. We do not, will not, and cannot find fulfillment, an infinite fulfillment, in finite things. We seek the infinite, and so often we don't know where to go. So we settle for the finite. And it cannot fulfill. There's a story of a few months ago, last month, many of y'all know that myself and a handful of students, we went on a pilgrimage to Rome and then Assisi. Well, while we were in Assisi, there was a story that we heard about St. Francis. St. Francis of Assisi. Hoodoo shocker, right? Anyway, but we heard a story about St. Francis, and so St. Francis, we hear a lot about him. It was a sister that was telling us this, and she said, we hear a lot about St. Francis, and the things that we think about St. Francis are really simple. Like, usually we think random statues in gardens and on bird baths, right? Because that's like the pet blessing saint. Like, that's what St. Francis is, apparently. We hear about St. Francis saying, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. Sorry to burst the bubble. He never actually said that. Go look it up. Anyway, and then the last one that we think about with St. Francis is dressing like a homeless guy, wearing with a really weird haircut and having a rope tied around his waist, right? Like, that's the three things that people really know about St. Francis. That's pretty much it. He likes birds, he kind of smells, and he is misquoted, right? But like St. Francis, there's an interesting thing with St. Francis is that one of his two of the biggest themes that he preached on and taught on were poverty and humility, right? It's interesting, people don't know who St. Francis was before his conversion. They know about a lot of different things, right? Like, they know that he spoke to God's creation. They know that he that he was very, very penitential. They know that he was a very holy man. But people don't focus a lot of times on who he was before his conversion or his reversion to the faith, right? St. Francis was a spoiled 21-year-old kid that came from a rich family. People don't realize this. St. Francis's dad was a merchant, and a successful one at that. He had everything. He had a lavish lifestyle, luxury. Like, he had all the things you could possibly imagine, all the luxury that you could possibly imagine. He was a military person at the time also. Like, so he had all of the, like, power, influence, money, sex, like, all the things that were his for the taking. And he lived in that lifestyle for a little while. But when he had his conversion, right, like, he struggled with, like, actually living out what it was that God was calling him to. It wasn't like all of a sudden he went pray before this crucifix, it spoke to him, and then all of a sudden he was walking around the holy saint that everybody knows. Like, it took some time for him to become the saint that he became. One of the early stories of his conversion actually was when he was trying to live this life as a beggar, and it was like it was just a very, very, like, rough thing for his dad to accept. Like, his dad was embarrassed of him. That he would walk around and he would dress like a beggar and he would do all this stuff. And what really started to make him mad, his father mad, was that he actually started giving away stuff. But the problem is like all the stuff that is being provided to him, he's giving away his dad's stuff, right? Like, he's giving away his dad's clothes and his dad's money. And like, at a certain point, his dad's like, could you stop, right? Like, so what he does is, at one point, is his father takes him, drags him before the bishop of Assisi, and looks at him and looks at the bishop and says, make this right. He's trying to follow your God. He's trying to follow all these things. He's trying to live out this radical kind of thing that I don't accept, right? And now it's starting to affect my bottom line. He's giving away my stuff. Like, make him give it back. And what Francis does, dramatic, a little flair for the dramatic, he strips off his clothing, like the luxury, like the luxurious clothing that he has, that his father made him put on. To not wear the rags of the poor people, right? He takes it, he throws it at his father's feet, and he says, I'm done. I give up this world. You see, Francis had found something bigger than the worldly stuff, and his dad didn't understand, his father didn't understand. To the point that he was willing to throw off the stuff of the world and basically say, I have to throw this away, I have to get rid of it because I like it too much. The sister that was giving us the story, she said, why is it that Francis would talk so much about poverty and so much about humility? Because it's what he struggled with. Think about it. The thing that we cling to, right? So often, that's the place that God really wants to say, let go there and let me, right? Like, let go and cling to me. Don't grip the pleasure, the power, the status, the whatever. Like, don't grip the things of this world. Don't define yourself by the things of this world. Yet, let go of those things which you actually like and you actually want and cling to me instead. Francis, don't hold on to the luxury. Let go of it and cling to me and embrace my poverty. Don't cling to the status of being a rich kid, but let go of it and cling to me instead. I think one of the things that's in the subtext of today's parable is that the problem with the young man is not that he was just saving. This isn't an indictment to, like, investment accounts, right? Like, what this is that he defined himself by the riches that he had. We don't hear a name. How do we hear this young man talked about? He's the rich man. He defines himself by what? Being rich. And God says, don't cling to that. Cling to me. Because that does not, will not, and cannot fulfill you. I can. My invitation for us as we reflect on this tonight is, what is it that you're clinging to? If it's in those categories, wealth, pleasure, power, status, if it's in those things, great. Like, that's the spot that God wants you to let go. If it's something else, great. Like, that's the spot that God wants you to let go, right? The key is that we don't cling to the things of this world. We don't embrace the things of this world as Jesus and Paul say today. We cling to the things of heaven. We cling to the Lord himself. St. Augustine, last example, is a perfect example of this, because St. Augustine, he did everything. He was smart, he was powerful, he had all these kind of things, right? He was charismatic, he had all the right kind of things when it came to the worldly stuff, and yet he had one of the most powerful quotes that has ever been uttered in the Christian tradition: "My heart was restless until it rested in you, O Lord." I was absolutely restless until I found you. St. Thomas Aquinas says, if you want to be happy, despise what it is that Jesus despised on the cross, and love the things that Jesus loved on the cross. As a reminder, there's no wealth. He's stripped naked. He has nothing. There's no pleasure. Absolute agony. There's no power. Someone put him there. And there's no fame. There's no notoriety. He was just another criminal being crucified. Love what it is that Jesus loved on the cross if you want to be happy. Despise the things that Jesus despised on the cross. We don't find fulfillment in the things of this world. We don't find fulfillment in the finite. Our true happiness, true joy, true peace is only found in the infinite. As we come to Mass tonight, may that be where we cling.